What if the thing holding you back isn't lack of opportunity, but lack of conviction? And what if standing out isn't about being louder, but being truer? Angelique Rewers is the CEO and founder of BoldHaus, an Inc. 5000 recognized company that has helped over 15,000 entrepreneurs in 72 countries land and work with corporate clients. She's been featured in Forbes, CNBC, and Entrepreneur, called by Inc. magazine the undisputed champion at helping small businesses land big clients. But her story goes far deeper than accolades. Angelique grew up in a blue-collar neighborhood in Baltimore, always knowing she was meant for more, from insisting on being the school play's narrator at age 5 to building a movement that's redefining what it means to be bold in business. We dive into how AI is shaping the landscape for expert-based entrepreneurs, why conviction is the secret ingredient of all brands, and how aligning your purpose with your brand can light a fire in others. Have you always been so category defining, so in your own lane?
I'm gonna be honest. I think that I have. I was, if you ask my mother, she will tell you that even when I was 3 years old, I would insist on picking out my own outfits, however crazy they were. I just didn't care. It was what I wanted to wear. When I was 5 in kindergarten and it was the holidays, there was a big Christmas pageant, like the big holiday thing that the schools used to do. And all the grades would get up and sing their songs and do this. And there was going to be a narrator for the school play. And I walked right up to my kindergarten teacher. I'll never forget, Mrs. Persigan-Rizik. And I said, I want to be the narrator for the school play. And she said to me, you don't know how to read yet. And my answer to her was that I would learn. And she said that the tryouts were tomorrow. And I said, fine, I'll learn tonight. And I did. And they let me go to the tryout. And I ended up becoming the school narrator in kindergarten. I literally learned the entire script overnight. When I was a freshman in high school, they used to joke. They used to call me Judy Jetson because I had a silver leather jacket that was insane and like these huge earrings. I think it's just always been who I am, Ree. And every time I've tried to put myself in a box to fit in, that box very quickly disintegrates.
Disintegrated, yeah.
Having a purpose, though, brings a light to us. It brings an energy to us. It does give our life meaning and purpose. I think I have a purpose in the business. My business has a purpose, has a meaning, and that has context to the brand. On a bigger level, I think my big why or my big purpose is to see what I'm capable of. I was just on CBS on a national broadcast, their big morning show, and I thought to myself, how amazing that this girl from Dundalk is on CBS Saturday morning news talking about the importance of small business in this country and what it really means to support small business. And that I got the opportunity to do that and continue to be invited back to do it again. And who would have thought that when I was being bullied in the 7th grade, that was going to be possible? I did have a woman come up to me, Ree, I think you'll appreciate this because you were there in 2013 when I took a big leap and took a big step to up-level my brand and my work in this world. You were there with us in Washington, D.C. when we—
Your big event? Inside
the
Edge?
big event. But I had a woman come up to me on the red carpet at our event at the BoldHaus Growth Summit this year. And, I always like to say it's an opportunity for me to like really get to give people hugs and handshakes and talk to everybody. And she came up and she said, Angelique, I need to tell you something. And she said, when I met you, and this would have been probably around 2011, 2012, so right around that same time, she said, I met you and there was something in you and I saw your vision and your fire for your business and just what you thought you were capable of. And it lit something in me. And this is a business, I have to be careful what I say, but let's just say they just received a national recognition that is unfreaking believable. Like what they have done with it. But she said, I wouldn't be a multimillionaire right now. I wouldn't be on this recognition, list. And I wouldn't. if I hadn't met you and you just lit something in me, your fire was contagious. And
Yeah.
so I think for me, that's a big part of it, Ree, is maybe that's, it's just kind of lighting the inner fire in others. But when I created this company, what I didn't understand about my own company, which is funny because I understand it about bigger brands, you'll see a bigger brand and let's say they try to change a logo or they try to change their name and they get a lot of backlash in the marketplace about whatever change they're planning to do.
A la Cracker Barrel.
Right. Well, I was going to say, can I mention them by name? But they're not the only ones. They're just the most recent ones, right? And they misunderstood that the marketplace felt ownership over the brand as much as the company feels ownership over the brand. And once you put something out into the world and it starts to grow and people embrace it, it's no longer entirely yours alone. And, the customers, the clients that are part of that community, they start to feel really invested in that brand as well.
Yeah.
And, there's another brand right now that's making a huge mistake. It's the On the Border restaurant that got bought by another restaurant. And that other restaurant that just bought the On the Border brand is trying to take their brand and kind of put it in, and it's alienating all the people who feel like such attachment to the On the Border brand and what they love. And it's like, I'm watching it going, what are you doing right now? But with BoldHaus, it was really interesting because once we put the brand out there, and of course, we continue to grow the brand and live into the brand. One of the things has been to watch our community really embrace the brand, to really kind of be a part of the story of our growth. And we hear people say to us, we have a client right now, Ree, who worked with us over 10 years ago the first time and worked with us, periodically through, but their business has gone in different directions. And she's coming back in to work with us in 2026. And she said, I've been working with you guys 10, 11, 12 years, ever since I decided to become a corporate escapee. And I've gone out and I have looked in the market. And yeah, there are people that teach the same stuff that BoldHaus teaches, technically speaking, on a sheet of paper. But there's really no one else who does it the way that you guys do it, that has the community that you have, that has the brain power that you guys have, that brings all the pieces together in the unique way. Like, our clients will tell us they go out and they look and then they come back because they're like, there's a different thing here. So you asked us, Ree, to identify our archetype. I love that stuff. I just loved it, but I struggled with it because there were several that could have, but I kept coming back to two. And they were engineer and magician.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's so wild. I think this is where your magic comes in. Honestly, I just have to say your magic around branding, because I picked those two and my gut told me that those were the right. I was just like, it's those two. I know I could argue this and I could argue this, but I just know it's the engineer and the magician.
Yeah.
And now that we've been living with this brand for 5 years and really understood that those were our archetypes, when we make decisions in our company, we make them knowing our archetype. And what has happened is it has allowed the brand to just grow in this, beyond ways I could have, forget you anticipating, beyond ways I could have ever anticipated. And it so comes back to understanding who we are and our archetypes and what makes us unique.
Yep.
And I think that's just been really such a blessing. I don't even know how to put it into words. It's been so transformational to the company.
Yeah. There are some people who build brands by default, right? Let's just throw a bunch of stuff up against the wall and therefore this becomes our brand. And then there's some people that purely just do it no, this is who we are, forget what the market says, and this is who we are, and the market will adapt to it. And I think there's a beautiful happy medium where they can meet in the middle, where there's a declaration or a stance. In your case, you're using the example of defining your archetypes. You have it interact with the market, and then now this becomes this, it's not about Angelique anymore. It's not even just about the BoldHaus. It's about this thing, this brand that got created that coexists or is interacting with everyone, not just your company, your team, the market, prospects, media, CBS. Like there's a perception, there's an identity there's a movement that you created that takes a life on its own. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful, what you've done. Light years ahead of like Angelique Rewers is the corporate agent, right?
That serves me well, and I will always be grateful. I don't know if folks necessarily know that story, but it was Allie Brown. For those of you who know Allie Brown came up with that name originally, was the corporate agent. I had won a strategy day with Allie Brown, which was game changing at that point in my life. Like I was such a baby entrepreneur at that point in time. And I'm forever grateful. I remember the moment that the idea came up, and it was so interesting because it made sense at the time. I mean, look, it was a very different world. Internet marketing was a very different world. Like it was just
Everything was so
different. But the idea of the corporate agent was the idea that I was a secret agent, that I was essentially a corporate decision maker insider, a decision maker whisperer, if you will. And she wasn't wrong. She was actually completely right at the time. Now, the market kind of misunderstood, and they would often see us as we're an agency that's going to book you clients kind of a thing. So it got very misinterpreted in the marketplace. So I learned some things about how is your brand going to be interpreted? How will the marketplace, is there an opportunity for them to misinterpret it? That type of thing. But it served me well for many years. And so that's where that came from. But then it was too much about me, that I was this secret agent. And the company had really grown into a community. And that's one of the big reasons one of the reasons we decided to rebrand was because the corporate agent is actually a legal term. So
I didn't know that. I thought it was a trademark issue.
Well, there was that too,
but
it's a legal term that's utilized in the law field. About representatives of corporate, it's a whole thing. And so I would constantly get Google alerts on the terminology being used. And so therefore we couldn't trademark it because it was a legal term, and it was too much about me, and it was misinterpreted by the marketplace. It had all of these issues. And I thought, this is not going to be the brand that serves our bigger movement, that serves our expansion and our scale. So I want to be able to trademark something. I want to be able to have a name that is more representative of our community, because the corporate agent was about me. BoldHaus is about our community.
Yeah.
And that alone also just changed a little bit of our come from, even when we're building strategic plans.
Yeah.
It's really interesting when you're looking out at the market and you're saying, who am I here to serve and how can we serve this community best? And that was always there, but it was something just shifted when the brand shifted.
It probably required more energy for you to communicate that, whereas BoldHaus and the brand and the messaging that you built around it just naturally has people gravitate towards it.
It was really interesting for me. And I think the other thing is the name is unique and it opens conversations. And folks will say to me, where does the brand come from? And I say it was a long process. I mean, it was a very involved process. But really when we landed there at the end, I knew it was right, because we've always said our clients are the Bolds. Those are the Davids who are working with the Goliaths. And they come back to us. We are their home over and over. Like the story I just said of someone who worked with us 10, 12, 13 years ago, who still keeps coming back to us, because even though our clients might pick up, oh, let's go work with this book coach over here, or let's work with this keynote coach, we are the one that puts it all together into a cohesive business for them. And And so we're always the place that people come back to. And that's really been our magic from the beginning. And I'll say this to folks because I think sometimes entrepreneurs can be a penny wise and a pound foolish. To get the BoldHaus.com, we had to go purchase it. Somebody owned it in, I think it was Germany, actually, which makes sense, right? And we had to go to one of the brokers to get the URL. And that was a little nerve-wracking because you never know who you're dealing with sometimes in terms of when it's an international transaction and whatnot. But we were willing to do it. And I even remember saying to our CFO, even if I lose the thousands of dollars that I'm about to spend, this risk is worth it to me. That's how important this brand is to me. Ultimately, when I knew, I knew.
You knew.
And I'm so glad that we went through some of the things we had to go through to make that brand possible, including spending a pretty big investment to get that URL. But I can't even imagine not having done that now,
Well, we did the work. We went deep. I asked you a lot of questions. You were so collaborative in that process to get there. And I have this thing of keep digging deeper, deeper, deeper. Let's get to the core of the thing until it just activate something inside you.
Activate. That's a good word. I think that's it. And it's interesting because I go really deep with our clients and I'll keep asking, give me an example. Give me an example. Tell me more about that client. And I know sometimes I drive them crazy. I know Phil and Ariana, we drive them crazy because we're, the faculty's in there going, give me more specifics, give me more. But it's in the depth when you go deep that you actually get to the truth.
I applaud you because you were willing to go deep where some others just want the surface.
Yeah.
You were willing to come up with a name, or you were willing to go with a name that was not descriptive. Most entrepreneurs are like, oh, I want a brand that says exactly what I do. Literally, like BoldHaus says what you do, but in a more conceptual storytelling kind of way, rather than like help more people, right?
We could have gone with, win corporate clients as our brand. When I look at the brands, and we did this at the beginning, but when I look at brands that inspire me, and I'll pick on one of the most iconic, right? But you look at Apple. Apple is conceptual, and where they started, it makes so much sense. And yet look at how powerful of a brand that is.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because I've never been, sometimes much to my marketing, failures if I'm not clear about something. But this was one of those things I thought, and I can be clear everywhere else. I want the brand to mean something and to have a meaning, especially today. If you want to stand out, we have gotten, oh my goodness, this bro culture thing that's going on with just some of the stuff that's out there, and it's such a transactional nature. One of the biggest challenges that we have to get people to talk to our team is that they have talked to other companies, and the sales team, for example, is so aggressive. Nasty. One of our own team members was in a call with another company because they were thinking about making an investment, and the person's like, "Why don't you want to make money?" And they're yelling at them.
That's still happening? People still do that?
It's still happening. We're just like, what is happening out there? I mention it because one of the things that was really important to us is that every sort of interaction with us, whether it's in a masterclass where I'm actually training real content and really getting into it, and then be like, oh, by the way, we do have this way to work with us if you want to work with us, but here's all this great content. And if this is cool, like if you like my style, if you like the speed at which we move, then you're going to like this too, as opposed to this sort of manipulative thing that is still being used out there. But the brand needed to differentiate us as well, because we're just different. And anybody who comes into our live event, we have people come into our growth summit every year who a friend has to twist their arm to get them there and goes, no, I'm telling you, you are going to be blown. Like, please come, please. I'm begging you. And they get there and then they'll come up to our team and they'll say, this is weird. Angelique's teaching. What's happening right now? Richard Branson's a great example of this. He is a disruptor. When he came out with the cruise line, he literally looked at everything that people hate about cruise lines. That's literally what they did. And then he came out with a cruise line that disrupted that. When he started Virgin America, he looked at everything that people hate about airlines and he disrupted that. Every single time he goes into a market, he only goes in when he looks at that and says, I want to do things differently. And that's always been from the beginning, even corporate agent days, where I would look around and go, why are people putting up with this? Or why is this the experience? Why, one of our brand promises is big business experiences curated for the small business owner. So we put $200 and some $1,000 just into AV at our events because I want, when people are coming to my event, to have a production experience that I think small business owners should have that experience, right? I just want to say that to the entrepreneurs listening. So if you're thinking about rebranding, then you have to be courageous in the process. And you have to be vulnerable in the process. If you want to have a good process with any branding expert, although I don't know why you would work with anyone but you have to be courageous and you have to be vulnerable.
One of the things that I've discovered, and this is, I put you in this category, if I look at the 20% of the clients that have, over the 14 years that I ran an agency, that have been wildly successful, one of the key things that, in addition to the great marketing and all that sort of stuff, is conviction. That they had the confidence and the conviction that whatever stake in the ground that they were going to put or whatever they were going to create, that it was going to be successful.
I love that word. I think that's exactly what it is. From the beginning, I had conviction about starting this business, even though a lot of people told me I was crazy. Of course, now everybody tries to do what we do. But back then, everyone didn't try. Everyone tried to think that we had lost our minds, that this is what we are focused on. And of course, now, everyone kind of sees the light and folks try to model what we've done. And competition is actually good because it keeps us on our toes and has us move faster, right? We're always going to be that industry leader. But I think that I think conviction is a really important thing to have. And conviction is what drives you when you get headwinds in the market, when there's friction in the market, when things aren't going the way you anticipated, because they don't oftentimes go the way that you anticipated. But it's really that conviction, that unwavering conviction. You have to be a little crazy. You have to be a little crazy. And you look at some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. You look at someone like a Richard Branson who disrupts markets and the conviction that he has to have around that. You look at some of the most famous entrepreneurs on the planet, and everyone was telling them what they were doing was crazy and it wasn't going to work. And their conviction is what moved them forward, is what got them through. I think people need probably a few more shakes of the, conviction salt shaker sometimes that they need to in their food, because you need to have that fire. You need to have it. Business is no one's going to give you permission. People aren't going to tell you what you want to hear. You're going to get way more no's than you get yeses. You're going to have some of your best laid plans not work out. So you better darn well be convicted in what you're doing, and also I think too, to have that courageousness to say, you know what, I'm going to go with this thing over here, to wear the Judy Jetson silver, literally, first day of a brand new high school, you show up in this ridiculous leather jacket that literally looks like it's from outer space. And one of my friends to this day, who worked for me for 10 years, Joe, walked up to me my first day of high school and literally said, "How you doing, Judy Jetson?" And so that became my nickname for like 2 years. But, you better believe in that thing. And it's what also allowed to have the courage to stand out.
Hot topic, AI. How is the market changing for expert-based business owners because of AI, in your opinion?
At BoldHaus, we work with experts, consultants, leadership coaches, trainers, service providers that are selling their services into organizations. So we're seeing a huge impact from AI, namely that the money inside of organizations is getting sucked into all of the AI projects. And we have these 5 rules of business at BoldHaus, and rule number 1 is follow the money. And so where you may have seen through, for example, the pandemic and the years immediately following the pandemic, the learning and organizational development teams, they had a ton of money. There was a huge focus on culture transformation and engagement and all of this. So they had a lot of money. Now you're seeing companies, they have no choice but to funnel all of that money into their AI transformation initiatives. And because of that, companies are reorging. Their new departments are being formed, workflow is changing, the skill sets that their leaders need are changing. Those essential skills are changing. You have to think differently. You have to lead differently. So one of the biggest impacts that we're seeing is that experts that are selling into organizations have to be conspicuous, direct, clear as crystal water to say, this is how our expertise can help your organization as it's realigning to the world of AI. And that is the biggest, most important change, more so than them using AI tools, Perplexity, and things to get things done in their business. We're pulling AI tools into our all systems go week that we're doing with people to build their engine of client growth. So we've got AI tools to make it faster for them while we're on site with them building their business development strategy to implement those things. And that's great. But the more important thing is the relevance and the alignment to where the money is going inside the organizations. Like, that is a non-negotiable. A lot of folks are struggling with how to do that and how to make themselves relevant. So we're spending a ton of time with our community on that right now. But you can't expect companies to do the math for you, for them to say, well, these are our struggles over here, and you've got these services over there. So we'll figure out the calculation of how we make your services relevant to what we do. There's all this fear about AI replacing jobs. But if we look at human history, from electricity to the industrial revolution, the printing press, I don't care what it is. Technology creates more opportunity, more jobs, things that we can't even envision. AI will be the greatest productivity tool that we have ever seen. It will create a level playing field in almost every area that companies currently get a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
But AI will remove all of those things as competitive advantages, which means companies are going to have to find new competitive advantages. And we don't have them yet because we don't need them yet. So humans, we create things when we need them. That's actually how sort of that's universal law at work there, right? So we will create these new solutions, these new opportunities when we need them. And our brains right now can't even conceptualize them. I am not afraid of where we're going. All I see is opportunity with the space exploration that we're having, with the fact that every product on the planet will be manufactured better because of AI, to the fact that we are going to cure diseases, including something that I have been afflicted with this year, that I now have something that's happening to me. But I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. And so we're going to cure cancer. We're going to figure out what to do with the plastics in the ocean. We're going to go to space. We're going to live on Mars. We're going to do all these things. It's just opportunity. That's literally, the universe is in a constant state of expansion. Expansion equals opportunity. I'm excited about where we're headed. And I think for experts that are willing to not get stuck where they are and are willing to stay on their toes, I think the next 10, 15, 20 years are going to be just just
Exciting.
incredible.
I love this because there is a lot of fear-based messaging, and I've seen like the full range of it, and I love this perspective. You've always been someone who looks for opportunity. I work with a lot of service-based brands as well, and anytime I hear that someone gets afraid or concerned, it's like, you just need to shift the way that you're creating value. You have to disrupt how you're creating value, and how can you coexist with AI, or how can you leverage AI? Like, we have no more excuse to be able to be more productive, or to generate more ideas, or to create a framework. So you could basically have something on your phone that can teach you and guide you. It's what you do with that. And are you going to take advantage of the opportunity, or are you going to be consumed with fear?
Just think about the fact that there will be entirely new companies that are started because of AI that we can't even fathom, right? I mean, not to mention what's going on with the Waymos and the flying taxis
Really big here
in
in Austin,
Miami.
all the Waymos,
I mean, all of this stuff, not to mention the fact that every product on the planet and pharmaceuticals and food and everything else has to be tested in space. And there's just all of this stuff that's going to be created. If I'm a coach, if I'm a consultant, if I'm a service provider right now, I'm looking at what is new and being created. And I'm going to be that explorer that's the first one on site. So if I'm a coach, if I'm a consultant right now, I want to look at the conferences that are popping up in 26 that didn't exist before because of AI. And I'm going to get my ass in that room. And I'm going to be the consultant, the coach, the copywriter, the marketing specialist, the communication specialist, whatever it is that I do, that employee health and wellness expert. I don't care what it is. I'm going to look for those conferences, and I'm going to get my butt on a plane. I'm going to get to that conference. I'm going to go meet all these people who have all this funding coming in, and they're starting these companies. And I'm going to be the expert that these companies are going to know from day one. You can sit there and just kind of watch and, watch the news and kind of get stuck behind your computer and worry. Or you can
put yourself
lean into it. My favorite book that I read this year was called The Last Days of Night. I just tell everybody to read this book. This guy's going to have to start giving me royalties from his book, because I've told so many people to read this book. It's historical fiction. So you need to know I'm not only a math nerd, I'm a history nerd. Okay. So I love history. This is historical fiction though. And it's literally about electricity and what happened as Edison, Westinghouse, and Tesla essentially battled over how electricity was going to roll out. And the last days of night, meaning we would finally have lights in our house, so we wouldn't have darkness the way that we used to have darkness because of electricity. But electricity is really the closest analogy that any of us can relate to when it comes to AI, because electricity is ubiquitous in our lives. And we just expect it to be there. And we don't really, it just is how we live. AI will be the same way, even more so, even more ubiquitous. But you should read it because there's an adventure spirit in that book of being on planet Earth when there's a technology that is changing the way we all live. We have that gift right now. We are literally in that moment right now. And there could be some scary things around AI when you look at warfare and some of the things that are being said. And I agree. I absolutely agree that we have to have concerns about all of that. But most of us aren't in a position that we can directly do something about that. So I look for where we can bring our energy to bear in the world. And to me, we need to embrace this moment. Some folks won't. Some folks are going to just keep doing what they're going to do. Where can I bring my expertise to bear right now? How can I be a part of this? Because the history books probably aren't going to mention you or I, Ree. I mean, I don't know. They're probably not. But we could still have an impact on what is happening right now.
Maybe you're that person that is going to create a solution that addresses some of the concerns that we have. I know cybersecurity, for example, is going to become a bigger issue.
Huge issue.
Maybe that's something that
Yeah.
someone might be inspired to embark upon. So there's all these new opportunities that are coming.
Even helping humans adjust to this new world, right? If you're a people person and not a technology person, helping people to think differently in this world,
Yeah.
to make the transition in this, to kind of the way of operating. I mean, we didn't really do a good job in the United States. Probably the rest of the world didn't either, but I can only speak informatively about the United States. But as computers came into the workforce, we didn't focus on psychological safety. We were not great about how we made that transition. We could do it differently this time. We could do it better this time. So I would encourage people, whether it's the technology side of it or it's the people side of the technology side of it.
I had this idea, just a really quick thing, and I don't know if this is for me to do, but it's something that I'm questioning. I'm like, who is helping senior citizens adopt to this new world, right? As I think about, I think about my parents, I think about the
So
elderly.
good.
Can you imagine if you're in your 70s, 80s, and you've lived all the ranges of how this world has been, and then it's like the whole world is different? How are they adapting to just getting around or
Right.
paying for things or protecting? They're and so I feel like there could be a huge opportunity.
Well, especially when you think about the fact that people could now call a senior citizen with a voice that
Yeah.
sounds exactly like one of their relatives and isn't their relative. I mean, they've already tested this with bank accounts. I mean, just
Yep.
this morning but I also, maybe I do need to write this article out to companies. Just this morning, I received a phone call from a company related to my health insurance company to inform me of some changes that are going to affect me next year, really important changes. But they called me and they wanted all of this information from me so that they could verify who I was. And I was like, no, I don't think so. And what are you doing? We tell people every single day in articles and on the news that when someone calls you and you don't know who they are, the last thing you should be doing is giving your health insurance information out to somebody. And yet that's exactly what this company is doing. And I'm just sitting there going like, okay, we keep telling people that you have to protect your information. And then these moron companies are literally asking people to do the exact opposite. And then they get mad when there's fraud. So there's a lot of stupidity. I'm just going to say there's a lot of stupidity out there right now of what's going on inside of companies around protecting people's information, not protecting people's bank accounts, So we better, as a society, make sure that senior citizens are protected. We need to make sure that companies aren't doing just completely illogical things that are going to end up causing fraud in their own companies. Because guess who's going to pay for that? Consumers are going to
Yep.
pay for that. But you know what? People like you and I, we probably, and to everyone listening, if you have a platform, you really need to use it right now. And it's actually one of the things I cleared my decks for next year. We rearranged how we're doing some of our programs because I really feel called. Is one of the reasons I wanted to be on CBS and talk about Small Business Saturday this year. I want to use my platform for more than just the core things that we do as an organization. I want to help shape the discord, the conversation that's happening. And you do too. And I think we have to now. We
have
can't
to.
not.
Ooh,
That was a lot.
no, it was good. And so, well, let's land this plane. I want people to obviously have an opportunity to find out a little bit more about, or a lot more about what you're up to. But what would be something, let's end on a positive note.
Yeah.
If we were to inspire people who are listening in, particularly if they're an expert-based entrepreneur who wants to make an impact, who wants to create their own business or wealth or prosperity, but also wants to have a healthy and vibrant life, what's your biggest advice or inspiration to ground people and to have people pull them in to seize the opportunity that are lying right in front of us and ahead of us?
I don't know who originally said this quote, but essentially, we judge ourselves based on what we know we're capable of. Others judge us based on what we have actually done, what we actually did, not just what we think we can do.
Yeah.
We actually have to bake the cake. We can't just read the recipe. And if you want to have an impact in this world, a big impact in this world, it comes through your work with clients. It
Yeah.
comes through your work with clients because when organizations are investing to work with you, you get in behind the curtain and you are able to create real transformation. And it's in that life experience of working with leaders, working with their teams, creating real impact in the world that then has a butterfly effect out throughout that organization. Not only do you get a financial reward for that, there's an equitable exchange of value, there's financial energy coming into your business. That allows you then to do bigger things and it builds a reputation. Look at what you've been able to accomplish, Ree. It isn't just doing a podcast talking about branding.
Yeah.
You have been in the trenches for 14, 15, well, actually longer than that because your agency days. When you're actually doing the work, the stories, the lessons learned, it brings a richness to what you are saying. It brings truth to what you're saying. I just spoke at a conference and I had like 60 seconds on the main stage to say something. And I ended up with a standing room only session. It was amazing. And people came up to me afterwards and they said, Angelique, in that 60 seconds that you were on that main stage, it was immediately clear that you knew what the hell you were talking about when it comes to experts and service providers landing organizational clients. Like it was instantaneous, the truth of what you were saying. That truth comes from 27 years of being in the trenches. So my advice is don't hide behind social media. Don't hide behind writing a book. Go work with the clients. Get the experience. Be in the trenches. That is what gives you a depth to your expertise. And that one client leads to the next client, leads to the next opportunity. But I have to bring it back because a lot of people are spending a lot of time on social media and recording videos and doing all of this stuff, but it becomes an echo chamber. The way you stand out today is by being the one who's not just talking about it, you're the one that's doing it. And it's amazing. The confidence, the clarity, the conviction. Talk about 3 C's. Confidence, clarity, and conviction come from doing the client work.
Wow.
So that's probably my biggest piece of advice to leave everybody with.
It lands differently. I mean, ChatGPT can kind of give you some content, but if you're just spitting out content that ChatGPT generated, but you don't have the lived experience or the integrated experience to have that mean something, it's not going to land. Anyways, just to land the plane, it's been beautiful to witness your journey, being part of your journey, working with you on your brand, collaborating with you, and then hosting you on this podcast. If people want to learn a little bit more about you, where should we send them to, Angelique?
Yeah, so obviously BoldHaus.com is a great place. Plus, you'll get to see the brand and really see the logo and just the essence of BoldHaus in action, which I would really encourage everyone to do so you can really just see the magic of what Ree does. And so go to BoldHaus.com. But also the other great place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. I am the only Angelique Rewers on LinkedIn. It's probably the platform that we're most active on just because that's, where our community is. So LinkedIn is a great place, but, be sure to go to BoldHaus because I just think that it's one thing to talk about the brand journey. It's another thing to really just see how it's continued to just grow and the visuals. And so I would just really encourage them to do that.
Cool. But we'll put all those links down in there. Please go check out Angelique. Thank you for listening in, and just really want to encourage you, inspire you to be a category of one brand where you become so bold, so unique, so category defining that you become impossible to ignore. So thank you, Angelique, for your time. And for everyone else, we'll see you on the next episode. Cheers. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you gathered at least one nugget that you can take into your life today. To dive deeper into my work, please visit reperez.com. That's reperez.com. It's a central hub to explore how to work one-on-one with me, to connect with me on Instagram or social media, or you can check out my new book, Your Brand Should Be Gay Even If You're Not, or you can inquire about booking me to speak to your audiences about the power of building a category of one brand, your unique gifts and your unique superpowers. Lean into what sets you apart, and I'll see you next week.